Oh my God, today, sometimes like after work, we just like take little beach chairs and just sit on the beach and we'll take Penny and she's like really good. She'll like hang out near us without a leash. And today, for whatever reason, she just was like playing with us. It was great. And then hightailed it. Like took a whiff of something and then like was a mile down the beach. And I looked at Mose and I was like, us. And then he had to like go run and get her. And it was like food and some bushes far down there. So we got her, brought her back. And then she was like being fine and we had a ball and she was good. And she did this thing where she started like going that way. And we were like, ah! And so she'd come back. And then she started going. We're like, ah! And she'd come back. And then I swear to God, like a scene in the movie, she did it. We yelled. She looked and just booked it again. And we're like, what the But I almost admire her for her, like, gumption.
Bear did the same thing the other day because he found a fish head in the yard.
Why?
Okay, so this is a whole thing. I have read up on this because I'm like, where the fuck are all these dead fish coming from? I have dead fish in my yard. I found 2.
Ew.
And I thought it was just birds catching them in the creek and then, like, dropping them in my yard. But there's actually dead fish. The fish are already dying. There's millions of dead fish in the creeks and the rivers because of a bacteria, because of global warming. And then that led to, I guess, a dead fish ending up in my yard and Bear eating a fish head.
That's very depressing.
Yeah, it's really gross. So I'm on the lookout for fish now when we go out.
Well, it's a nice depressive start to this episode.
It's pretty apropos.
Apropos is right.
Sisters who've seen it. We are the sisters who've seen it. Sisters, shooby-dooby-doo-wop. Sisters, shooby-dooby-doo-wop. Sisters. Sisters who've seen it.
Hello!
Hello! Welcome back, listeners.
Welcome back for some heavy stuff.
I like your head movements. Doing that, you look like a snake.
I snaked while I said heavy stuff. Everyone with me. Shake that head. Okay, sorry.
Yes. Welcome back, listeners. We're happy to have you back. I'm going to jump right in and introduce ourselves if you are new. So we are the Sisters Who've Seen It, the podcast where 2 sisters who are not movie critics look back on some of our favorites throughout the years through a psychological, ethical, and familial lens. I'm Katie.
I'm Bridget.
And Whoopi.
Whoopi.
Part of me was like, do you want to sing the Downtown song? And I was like, I don't think I do. I think I want to do a Whoopi shout out because, like, bless her.
Jesus. Some of this didn't age well.
Yeah, it's a lot. So what's our movie this week, Brits? What's our uplifting, sunshine and rainbows filled movie?
Girl, comma, interrupted.
Yeah, it's important you know the punctuation, people. You never know when it's going to come up in a podcast movie trivia bar game. You never know.
Hosted by us. One day it will be real.
Yes, Girl Interrupted.
Which, you know, this 1999 was the same year 10 Things I Hate About You came out. The Blair Witch Project.
Blair Witch! Oh!
Remember? I'll go back to all those episodes, enjoy, and it was like this like booming year for like teen dramas, and I remember as a kid watching this a lot. Over and over and over. Oh yeah.
Why?
I just loved all these dark movies, and I think, so I have some like theories, because I was really kind of trying to be introspective of like, Bridget, what was with teenage you watching all this like dark stuff?
Yeah,
like what was that about?
Bridget,
like,
do you want to talk
journal
about
it? Do you have to journal this? But I think as we get into it, like the theme kind of like came out, and this is a dark movie, but it's also some fantastic acting by Angelina Jolie. Wow.
I think everyone nails it, honestly.
Agreed. But you didn't think she kind of like, I mean, I thought she stole the...
I think her character was just naturally created to be a scene stealer.
Yeah.
But yeah, she won an Oscar for this performance, pretty sure. Best Supporting Actress.
And I think a Golden Globe.
Okay. Okay.
So first of all, okay, let's take this back. This is for Emily, and this is a fan pick.
Woo!
Emily's amazing.
Thank you, Emily.
Emily is my Chicago friend, and she's my friend I can get deep with. So this is very much fitting movie suggestion. And I said to her, I was like, do you want to record anything? Do you want to give quotes? And she was like, my car broke down. I have to deal with like this and this and that. And I'm just having a time. And I was like, don't you fret. And so Emily will not be providing anything because she's got a bunch of stuff going on.
Emily, it's
her
okay.
life was interrupted. So I was like, don't worry about it.
Emily, you take care of yourself now, okay? You know, don't make any rash decisions.
Don't pull any Winona Ryders, okay?
Take it easy. It's all right. We're going to be okay.
Okay, so I had to make sure I mentioned that, but I can attempt a synopsis. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, Winona Ryder.
I like her.
Susanna Kaysen, which wrote the book that this came from. That was in 1993, and the woman's name is actually Susanna Kaysen.
Oh, well.
Yeah, and this is based on a true story. When in the 60s, she was 18 years old and had a kind of half-hearted suicide attempt that led her into a institution, which she, being 18, all her friends going off to college, she signed herself in, not really understanding what was happening, and instead of doing this like quick stint, oh, let me go rest, instead of go resting, she ended up spending 18 months in this mental hospital. And so for this movie, it goes into the details of that, where she is struggling with what her diagnosis is borderline personality disorder. And she is starting to have this experience where she actually becomes close with a bunch of the young women in the facility, and she creates all these different friendships, but then she looks at the outside world and keeps thinking, well, I'm not really crazy, air quotes, like the women in here. And then she also isn't ready to leave. And so you see her weave in and out of all these relationships, but also kind of question, like, do I have something wrong with me? Don't I? And just kind of trying to make it all make sense in her head. And Angelina Jolie is like this force that has been there for 8 years, and I think is a part of what's keeping her there to, like, you know, do bad behaviors, like don't take your medicine, and like, let's get out of here and let's go look at our diagnosis in the files downstairs, and all this crazy stuff that goes down. She's a lot of the instigator.
Yes.
And you basically see her then try to take it all in, and in kind of a big climactic moment where one of the girls who gets let out, Brittany Murphy,
I know,
ends up committing suicide when they go visit her after fleeing the hospital, and that kind of snaps some sense into her, where she realizes, like, this is insane. I've reached a line. I need to go back. And so she then tries to get better, and right before she leaves, Angelina Jolie kind of tries to take her down again, but the movie, it basically ends with her leaving the hospital, in theory, healed or whatever. Yeah, question mark, ... and then goes back into the real world and leaves the hospital, and that's it. Yeah, it's for people that I think like dig these like deep, dark psychological movies where they get to like live a life they don't live. And so one of my theories on why as a teenager I was like really into this, and this is a theme in this movie, is that Whoopi, of course, the amazing
Whoopi,
calls out the main character, Winona Ryder.
Yeah, because she's the best.
You're a lazy, self-indulgent little girl driving yourself crazy. And I think that is also part of this movie, is that there's like a little bit of, well, you have this nice privileged life, and, you know, there's maybe some excitement to it all. And I was like, maybe I was just really, really bored as a kid from our like boring life. And I was like, these movies are exciting, and this is like something I don't know anything about, and it's just so interesting to me. Yeah, but I know I forgot a lot in the synopsis, but I just feel like I couldn't get into all the detail. What do you think? What else should we add?
I don't think you forgot a lot at all. I felt like that was very thorough.
Oh, okay.
And I was going to say, if you didn't talk about Whoopi, I was going to flip this table. So thank you for redeeming yourself at the end there. No.
Yeah. Well, she plays a role that's really interesting. Okay, so this is the critiques from the critics of this movie is that they didn't really pick a lane. Like, is the hospital the bad guys? Or is it like the mental illness? Or is it like you? Or who's helping who? Because in the 60s, some of these hospitals had like horrific practices, which is where like movies like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest came in. And so you met Whoopi and you're like, oh, are you going to be like evil? But like she was wonderful. She was like a wonderful, sensitive, caring person and had to deal with all their garbage, but also like had her moments where she still like sent Lisa to go get shock therapy. Mm-hmm. So like Whoopi was awesome, but at the same time had her moments where she was just over it. And so I don't know if she was the real Whoopi we know and love.
I love her.
But like her character only had so much. Like she could only do so much with that character in my mind.
I mean, I liked how it didn't pick a lane because that's kind of more realistic.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think movies sometimes get a little exploitive when it comes to mental health. So I'm happy that they made it a little more normal where it's like, it's gonna feel like we're the bad guys trying to give you help, but then you're gonna maybe realize, depending on the type of help, of course, but then you're gonna realize after some time has gone by with such help, like, oh, you are helping me. And so I like that part because I thought that was well done. But I mean, the shock therapy stuff, I think that was just reflective of the time period. Because if this same exact story was set in a different era, then they just wouldn't include that, you know? Yep. And then I think it would have been a little different in Whoopi's case because it just wouldn't have been an option and it might have been something else. Even the whole like isolation room, like some of the things the girls got put in there for, I was like, I don't know about that. Like, was it the one girl is like, I'm ugly, and they're like, put her alone. Get her out of my face. I don't want to see her either. I'm like, seems backward. Okay.
Elizabeth Moss and that transformation. Like, wowie.
Oh, she was like a little baby. How old was she in this movie?
She was the youngest. I think she was 17, 18, where the rest of them were like mid to late 20s. Which was also kind of annoying. I'm like, we could tell you're all older.
I don't know if they were all supposed to be teenagers, though. You think they were supposed to be teenagers in the movie? Because I didn't get that impression.
I got the impression it was like young women, which I assume was in that like right around 18, not like 28.
Yeah.
I don't know. They don't talk about it. So, okay, but the start of this movie, please tell me you caught one of Winona Ryder's lines that was very meta to her acting story.
I don't flippin' know, but all I wrote is this opening narration sounds like a poem that didn't win an award. Stop doing that. That's what so I didn't register. None of the words registered because it just annoyed me. I was like, this is very pretentious. Like, please stop. So please share with me because clearly I have no idea.
Okay.
Was it something about shoplifting?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. I was making a joke, but...
no. So one of her lines is, have you ever stolen something when you had the money?
Oh.
Now, this movie came out in 1999. Her shoplifting stuff was all like 2003, I think, when she got convicted of like grand larceny or something, whatever. And I just was like, whoa! And then I read all about, because I just thought that was like crazy, you know? The irony. Yeah, and nobody talks about it. When I was like Googling things, I thought people would be like, ha ha ha, how about this scene? But nobody talks about it. And I was like, say what? Oh, 2001. So only 2 years later.
2 years later, yeah.
Yeah. So she was the producer on this movie.
You know what? I did know that because I knew that she, like, I guess, I don't know if it was like the book, like she got rights to the book. I knew that she like wanted to make that book into a movie and like she was the one kind of like pushing it, which is cool. I love hearing stories like that. And I love hearing stories like that when it actually happens and then it's like a good movie.
Well, and the book came out in 1993.
Yeah.
And when it came out, I read all about why did this like explode in popularity, because this woman was not like this famous writer or, you know, she had written books or whatever, but there's a lot of like market factors that all happened at the same time. And as part of the popularity, Winona Ryder was like, this is a book that like I can relate to, because she had struggled a lot with like when her and Johnny Depp broke up or whatever, she was in this like crazy depressive spiral, but she was also at like the height of her career. So she talked about how she could never really complain because she would just sound like this like rich, privileged celebrity complaining. And so she related to this book.
I mean, rich people can have mental mental health problems too.
I know. I'm not saying I agree with her. I'm just saying, like, how fascinating. But people like Winona Ryder was like, someone is finally speaking about me. And that's when she was obsessed with trying to make this movie. And took, you know, whatever, 7 years or something to keep pushing it.
It's crazy.
So let me breathe and realize that we are both on this and we have to go back and forth. So I think I'm done. I had to get that all out. I was like very fascinated by it all.
I had no idea you loved this movie so much.
I forgot.
How old were you in 1999? You were 14?
14. High school for me was
Like
2000.
13, 14.
So 13, 14.
It's a very angsty age, so I get it.
Well, so it came out in movie theaters in 1999. Let's assume it went to tape 2000 and, you know, when we would go to West Coast Video to rent it down near our house. Let's say it's 2000, 2001. So it was like 14, 15, which I think is like totally...
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like it's a really interesting age. Like there's nothing else to do. Like what else? I mean, there's just not a lot. There's a lot of thinking. There's not a lot of like exciting stuff you're doing.
There's a lot of hormones running rampant. Which
too.
is hard for young women.
Okay, so talk to me.
So we start off, yes, there is a poem. It's got a connection. And Winona's getting... I was going to say resurrected. That's not right. She's getting resuscitated or something at the hospital because she had a suicide attempt. And then the editing is very like... trippy. You got to pay attention. Yeah. Because there's a lot of back and forth. And it's somewhat sequential. Like all the flashbacks go in sequential order. It's just they don't happen one after the other. Yeah. If that makes sense.
I'm never prepared a flashback is coming. It's always random.
It is. And they do it in a way where it's like the main character, Susanna, is like doing something or talking to someone and then she like spaces out and then you're like, oh, now we're in a flashback. What? Okay, here we are. Oh, Jesus Christ. Did you see who the first, like, I don't want to call it a therapist because I don't know what the heck this guy's role was, but you see who that was talking to her after the suicide attempt?
I go, whoa, Red from that 70s show is playing a weird role.
That's literally what I wrote.
It was weird seeing him in that role.
Oh, it was so weird seeing him be like trying to be nice and supportive. I was like, is he gonna tell her he's gonna stick his foot up her ass? Because watch out. I feel like that would be his response.
No, instead he was like, are you stoned? Do you smoke pot? How about LSD? I was like, this is so weird.
He's like, do you hang out with my son in the basement? Because
is Kelso down there?
Going on. Yeah. But what, so he was her parents' friend who I hope was a therapist and not just, I don't know. Who are you?
So I think it was he was retired and he was just doing it as a favor. And that was like the vibe I got, that they called their rich fancy friends and was like, can you come over and talk to her? Can you help us out there, Red? That's not his name, but I just hope they had that conversation.
I mean, it was though. Hated all of that because he says terrible things. He tells her, you're hurting everyone around you. Actually, I don't know if that was him that said that, but somebody says that.
No, he said that. I wrote that line down.
I hate that.
I was like, what is this right now?
Not a great line to say. Usually, you know, it's not about other people, okay? Don't be so selfish. Jesus, Christmas. And then he's like, oh, you look like you need to take a nap. And she's like, sure. And he's like, right. So now you're going to this place to take a nap. And she was like, oh, okay. And then he was like, yeah, I'll call a cab. She's like, my mom is literally right there. And he's like, it's just too hard. It's just gonna be too hard. And again, I was like, not about you. This is me yelling at the mom. Not about you. It's about your daughter needs a nap. Go hug your daughter and say goodbye, because what are you doing?
And what was so weird and dramatic is the mom was not in the driveway. She was like in the cross street in her car staring at her as she went to the cab. And I was like, wait, What's happening right now?
I hate it. I hated it. I hate it all.
Yeah, I don't know what. But she was very out of it, right? At the beginning, she's just like, huh? What? What's happening?
Yeah.
Like, she was very kind of not with it.
Well, I mean, that's how I felt too with a lot of the flashbacks, because I was like, huh? I don't remember this sequence. Okay, now we're here. What's happening? And it's just like, just a lot. And you learn like, okay, so her relationship with her parents isn't great. Her parents are very affluent
Ugh.
and they care very much about their image, and she doesn't have the same image or whatevs. And then you learn that there's a disgusting man who's gross, and somehow she like had sex with him one time, and then he's like, hey, let's do that again. And she's like, fuck off, I'm in my nightgown. And she slams the door in his face, which I was like, good job. Way to go.
And how creepy is that? Because the entire movie, nobody's like, hey, that was statutory rape because you were like 17 and your friend's dad, who's a professor, had sex with you. And the entire movie never talks about that.
I didn't know how, they didn't talk about like how old she was though. Like I even, honestly, in the movie, I was confused on like, I didn't know how old she was supposed to be. Because I was like, I know you're out of high school when you're in the place. But like these flashbacks, I don't know. You were in high school at some point, but like when was this party take place? I don't know. I don't know anything. It's like, it was very...
Yeah.
She might have been though. She might have been like under 18, which is illegal. So...
Yeah, and I tied, like, as she got into the mental hospital and they said, you know, you could sign yourself in, you're 18. I thought, okay, so she literally, like, just turned 18, and then she just graduated high school and she's not doing college. So the professor flashback in my mind was she was under 18.
Okay.
That was my theory, but, like, you're right. I actually don't have, like, true proof because I couldn't keep track of, like, for all we know, she turned 18, you know, junior year.
All I know is he was a disgusting man. Homegirl's literally trying to go to bed. Like, she just wants to go to sleep, like all of us. So please, let the girl take a nap. And then he's, like, being disgusting and sneaking upstairs. And, like, the wife is like, where'd you go, hon? I'm like,
Ew.
he's gross. He's being gross. You better go get him and you better tie him up somewhere because he's wandering around being gross.
Go arrest him. That's what you should do.
I hated it. So that's kind of what we learn before she gets to the place. And then she has that cab ride where the cab driver, again, just says things that, like, don't say that. He's like, you look normal. Why are you going there? I'm like, oh, okay. And then she's like, well, I'm really sad. And he goes, well, everyone's sad. And then again, I was like, yourself.
Katie takes dramatic sip. Continue.
You know what I wish I had? Because I sent you that TikTok video of that guy. Just all the comebacks.
Yes.
I need that music because I need to play that. Where it's like, yeah, well, everyone's sad. Everyone's sad, huh? It's so good. Sorry. Off task.
I know. I love it. And this is when, in the beginning, and this is very much, it's giving me like Shining vibes with, do you remember the Shining had that music where it was like, do, 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 and it was like really, really creepy. I don't know if you paid attention in this movie, but they had those like ding, 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 and like it was all these like
tones.
Yeah, so I feel like that's when I started to hear it. Like after the taxi, all of a sudden it was like ding, 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 and I was like, whoa!
You're like, no! Yo, but the first person she meets is Whoopi!
I have that in huge letters. Like,
Me too.
I completely forgot, and I mean, it was great. Okay, we gotta go through all the roommates though, because the cast of characters is some heavy hitters, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Brittany Murphy, right away, it's like, whoa.
So it's always weird seeing her.
But it's sad, right?
It's so sad. Yeah. It's so sad. Especially in like a role like this where you're like, ugh, that's how your character is gonna go. Like, that's so... I hate it.
I know. And like, I really want to like know your professional opinion about what was happening with her, because there was like a lot happening with her character. Like, I think she had, in my mind, like one of the saddest stories.
Well, yeah, when you find out like
her
if
dad,
that was real, because it did come from Lisa. So like, I don't know. You know, I feel like you could interpret it in different ways, but we're going to assume it was real. I don't know if I'm qualified qualified to diagnose anything because there was a lot of stuff. Because at first you're kind of like, is this like an eating disorder?
Yes, with the chickens.
You don't want people to see you. You're hiding what you're eating. There's something relating to pooping, which I feel like has to do with the chicken.
Yeah, but then it's like an incest.
But again, that's what I mean. It's like that. You find that out from Lisa.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we just assume it's factual, and I think the movie intended it to be factual.
Yeah.
But I have questions about, like, why the flip did she get let out? Like,
agreed.
What's the criteria? And like everybody else who's like a patient there is like asking the same question as us. Like we're all like raising our hands and like, hey, and like nobody answers it. I would love to know like what the heck was the like, oh, she good. Let's go. Because it was flipping weird.
No, sad.
It was weird. I'm hoping that was not real life. I hope that like didn't really happen to this lady.
I did not go into the details.
Okay.
Like, if you and I read the book, I think the reality is, like, that woman doesn't know these people's, like, real medical histories. I know there's the one scene where they actually, like, go down and read everybody's, like, medical charts, but I can't imagine when she, like, writes the book, these characters are, like, totally factual.
Yeah. I meant, like, the suicide. Like, I really hope she did not find someone who had just done that.
Oh. No, I think that was true.
Oh, my God.
I think that was part of, like, the book, but I don't know. I would have to, like, totally read the book on that, but...
Okay, well, not the point. But yeah, so Brittany Murphy's a trip. She basically, her character just wants everything to be rainbows and sunshines, but she's also like, off, get out of my face, and give me some pills. And you're like, wait, those are different. Okay. And then there's Polly.
Who is Elisabeth Moss, who had... First of all, there's a fantastic introduction by Georgina, who is her roommate, who's the pathological liar, and explains to us how Polly got the burn, and then at the end of the story explained, I'm a pathological liar, which I thought was like a perfect scene, wasn't it? It was done funny. So well. But clearly she had some traumatic event happen to her, and she cannot get over the fact that she's just so ugly with her face. So she wants to like go back to childhood, and she doesn't want to move on because she just hates the way she looks and she can't get over it. I mean, that was my understanding of what was going on with Polly?
I think, because honestly, I was kind of like, I mean, you're a little immature, but like, I don't know, like, you're not hard to manage type situation. I feel like you could probably be at home, but I guess, who knows?
But then she had that like one freak out moment where she was like, I'm ugly! As you say, she gets thrown in a padded room for saying she's ugly, which would have been, I don't know, the entire teenage population at some point.
Like, could you imagine? Like, Jesus. Literally her response is, I'm ugly, and then your reaction is to be like, well, better get you out of my face then, because I agree, and I don't want to hear it.
Get out of here, yo.
Get out of here and go sit by yourself in the corner. Yeah, don't do that. Don't respond like that.
Who is the anorexic woman?
Oh, what the flip was her name? You know, I probably have it written somewhere, but she wasn't in there a lot.
74 pounds is the perfect weight. And then she falls to the ground, and the lady is like, now how are you supposed to be a tree on the ground? And she goes, I'm a peppermint shrub.
I love it. There was also a scene where she got naked and was running outside, which I was like, that's amazing. Yes. Oh, I think her name's Janet. It's Janet.
Okay.
Yeah, so she is anorexic, and they took her clothes away until she decides to eat something. Let me poke holes in this stupid balloon. Okay. The most motivating thing to this lady is wearing clothes? You think? Because it ain't. Clearly, because she's running around naked outside. So I feel like you guys need a different approach. Because, like, what are we doing? I don't get it. I don't understand.
Oh my god, you just made me think of a story in my real life, which I realized how, like, ridiculous this was. For lacrosse in college, our first coach was a lunatic. And we played so bad at some game that she told us we didn't deserve our uniforms, that we were a disgrace to the university's uniforms, and for practice you get these practice uniforms called issues, that we had to show up in our own clothes because we weren't like worthy. And you're reminding me of like that moment that I'm like, oh my god, we weren't allowed to wear like clothes at me and Janet. Huh, what'd you think of that?
But, and then you're all like, who the fuck cares? It's just practice, you dingling. Like, we're still gonna wear our uniform.
Well, we were a bunch of, like, idiot college kids, so people were wearing, like, stupid neon pink and, like, bra straps, and I was like, I think we actually look pretty cute, you know? Like, those issues were not form-fitting.
Yeah, again, that was a good representation of, like, really bad 60s, you know, mental health therapy. So that's Janet. She's fine. I want to say one thing about Georgina. This was, like, slipped in. I thought this was very seamless, which I like, because when Whoopi goes and introduces Susanna to Georgina, she's like, oh, Georgina, this is your new roommate, Susanna, you know, and Georgina's so nice. Susanna's like, oh, she seems normal. She seems okay. And when Whoopi walks away, because Whoopi's the best, Whoopi goes, or she asked Georgina, she's like, oh, make sure to bring her down to the cafeteria at this time. And she was like, yes. And then Whoopi, she goes, yes means yes, Georgina, because she's a pathological liar. So she's like, you better mean what you say, girlfriend. Don't be lying to me. And I was like, I like that. I love little things like that.
I didn't catch that.
It's very clever.
Oh my God. Well, and she was in love with the Wizard of Oz and was obsessed with it, had all these pictures of the Wizard of Oz and wanted to live in Oz or whatever.
Yeah. Which I kind of wish that was like, I don't know, played in more to like the lying piece. I guess the only thing I could think of is like when we have children who lie a lot, it means usually they've got a really good imagination and they love stories and they're great at storytelling. So like, I guess that could like kind of connect it, but I didn't feel like there was like too much of a clear connection where I was like, so you're a liar / you like this movie. Got it. Yeah, I was like, uh-huh. And then the lying doesn't, like, come up ever again.
No, it doesn't.
She's just, like, a typical person, other the movie, who's, like,
well,
you know.
She has the one moment where she's screaming at Winona, and she goes, my father is the head of the CIA! He will have you killed!
You're right. You are right. That's true. But, like, they could have, I don't know.
They could have used it more.
They could have used it more, I think.
And they could have been funny about it.
Yes.
And then we have Lisa, who's... I think a sociopath? Is that what was like her?
So that's what the movie calls her, and I guess she kind of is depicted that way, but I don't know. Some parts I was like, I don't know if you really are, because like at the end where she gets like super emotional, like she doesn't use these words, but she's basically like, nobody ever like really tries to get at me because nobody bothers. Mm-hmm. I just felt like she was, you know, she was like you said, an instigator and very manipulative, and she kind of like ran the place. Because, like, she's not there initially. She gets brought back. It was like the first day. I'm like, this is a busy day for this place. My goodness.
Well, she comes in and she's looking for Jamie. Jamie. Where's Jamie? Who, I guess you start to see this pattern of whoever Lisa gets close with and then Lisa leaves, that person gets better.
Well, Jamie killed herself.
Oh, I thought she got let out.
No, Jamie died. Jamie killed herself because Lisa left.
Did I miss that?
I think you did.
Oh, she did. She hung herself with a volleyball net. I have that note.
She did.
Oh, God, I got that wrong.
Well, it's okay, but she did. There's a lot of people dying from this place.
Super dark.
We need an investigation. What, that happened within the last, like, week? Where are the authorities? Hello?
I don't know.
Anyone at all. Okay. But I felt like they had that in there because it could have been used as like foreshadowing where it's like, if you get attached to Lisa, this could end up happening to you because you basically get so sucked in and you're so invested in her. And then she, because she's a sociopath, doesn't give a shit about you. But like she also does, which is like, again, confusing in my opinion.
It was kind of like a narcissist, right? Like,
yeah. Well, that goes hand in hand.
Oh, does it?
That.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even like when Lisa comes back and then she's like, who the fuck are you? And Jamie's room and she's like getting all crazy and then everybody like, again, they're just put everyone in the padded room. That's where you go if you are upset about something, you're gonna go in there. But it's like she's so upset about that and then it's like she never talks about it again.
Yeah.
Nothing. That's it. And then she moves on. And then again, I guess you could contribute it to her being a potential sociopath.
Well, and she had been there for 8 years. So you're like, okay, they had to give her a heavy diagnosis, right? Like they couldn't just be like, la-di-da-di. She doesn't like her face, like Polly, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So every time she came on screen, it was so exciting. Like her character just had such charisma and excitement. And I think that's also what makes this movie very fun, is I barely remembered all the stuff. Like all of a sudden a new scene would happen where the scene where she's like, you come one step closer and I'll jam this in my aorta. And Whoopi's like, your aorta's in your chest. And she was like, good to know.
I love it.
She just had all these funny scenes. But I think then after we start to meet everybody, we then do the flashback and learn about another giant person in this movie, Jared Leto.
Oh my God. He looked like... I don't know. He looked like someone's uncle, and I hated all of it.
The mustache and the hair.
Oh, it was, I think it was the mustache. I just really wanted to, shave it. I hated it so much.
But those eyes, man, he's got some dreamy eyes.
Well, he's a very attractive man. But don't grow a mustache, Jared! Keep it off your beautiful face, please.
But he ties in the whole, they get connected. He's somewhat of a casual lover, so to speak. And their weird scene where she starts talking about, isn't it interesting to, think about, killing yourself? And isn't it this and that? And he was like, I don't want to talk about that. That's messed up, man. In Vietnam, my name gets called. I'm dead. And you're just like, what?
Again, it's not about you, Jared. All right? Take a number and wait your turn.
Literally, I was like, okay.
I didn't understand if they had because again, the flashbacks are confusing because you see the flashback where it's her high school graduation where she's sleeping and they keep calling her name and she's not getting up and because she's asleep or whatever and you don't, whatever. And he is at the graduation. Why? Because he's not graduating. Is he someone's dad? Was he a dad? Why was he there?
Oh,
Who is he?
I thought he was a brother of somebody.
Okay, I hope that's what it was.
Or a friend. I thought he was the same age as her. I didn't get a vibe he was older.
I didn't understand anything. And I don't think they explained it. But then you see, I guess an after party and Susanna's just, vibing on her own in the club. And he then comes up and he's like, hey, I'm Blue. And then they meet. And then the next scene is them, they just, slept together. And I didn't understand, did you literally only do it once?
Yeah.
Or was it multiple?
Yeah.
I don't know. Because you only showed it once. And the way that it ended was he's kind of about where she's basically in her own special way, admitting that she's contemplating suicide and he doesn't take it seriously. And then she gets annoyed and leaves. And he's like, wow, you're going to be annoyed? Really? And then she was like, good luck at the draft. Bye. So, to me, it felt like this was one time, you're a bye-bye.
Oh.
Yeah, but then, he appears and she's like, that's my boyfriend. And I was like, wait, guys, are you sure about that? Did we talk about... And then he also is like, I love you. I was like, whoa, who's the crazy one now?
Well, and then he's like, let's go to Canada and I want to flee this draft. I mean, honestly, all I remember is his birthday, which is December 30th.
Sure. So, yeah, tries to dodge a draft. He comes to visit her. They try to have sexy time in their room and they get interrupted because there's room checks every 10 minutes.
Ugh.
What's going on?
Also, at that point, just leave the door open.
Might as well. I mean, 10 minutes. That's not a lot of time.
That's not a lot of time.
And that's when Lisa did the aorta thing. Because, again, this is an instance of Lisa, kind of showing that she does care about other people because she's trying to, help Susanna out. She's trying to be, a wing lady.
Yeah, she was a good wing woman.
She's trying to, buy her more time. And, it doesn't totally work, but she tried and whatever. And then Whoopi's like, hey, Susanna, you have grounds privileges. Why don't you guys go get a coffee? I was like, Whoopi, are you giving her
Whoopi's like, have
the
fun.
thumbs up? Yeah, she's like, kids
go,
are crazy.
Go get it, but not in my institution.
You better go make out under the tree because there ain't no checks under there. That's all I'm saying. Have fun. So
yeah, it's they were hammering home, you're promiscuous. Look at all these people that you're, sleeping with and all that. And I'm like, honestly, I don't really think she really was. But
I don't think so either.
I think that was the 60s being 60s.
I almost feel like, too, because she brings this up where she's talking to the one therapist and she's talking about the promiscuous word and she's like, how many people do you have to sleep with to be promiscuous? What's the number? And she was saying, it's different for women than men. And And yeah, so the diagnosis that she was given, the borderline personality, they categorize it as like unstable relationships. So it's not necessarily like you're just having sex with a bunch of people, but it's just like you can't maintain a good relationship because you go about it in unhealthy ways. So it's not really related to like sex, which is good because what?
Well, and you could argue the professor, like choosing to sleep with somebody that age, in theory, you could tie that to like, well, that's a big decision. Mm-hmm. I also pretty much blame it all on him, but that's another story. The orderly who worked at the hospital and she like jumped on him all of a sudden, I felt like that was out of nowhere.
Yeah.
She was like flirting, and then she just like jumped on him and started making out with him, and I was like, what? So like from that definition, I'm like, okay, she was doing some of that, but promiscuous seems like who cares? I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
That's just like a descriptor of somebody that doesn't need to be positive or negative.
Yeah.
And they were using it very negative with a mental health diagnosis, and you're like, huh? That's just what?
Yeah. The whole movie, like you said, is she's kind of having this like identity crisis where she's like, who am I? Like, am I crazy? Am I not crazy? Mm-hmm. Is this a forever? I've always been this way. Is this a just for now and it can change type thing? And I like that because I do think that depending on the type of diagnosis you may have, I think a lot of people experience that because if you later in life get diagnosed with something, I think some people may find comfort being like, oh, so there's a name for what's going on. Like that's comforting. But some people, it may not be comforting. And you could almost say you go through like a stages of grief where you're like, what do you mean this is what's going on with me? I've never had this diagnosis, this label before, and now you're telling me this is something that is impacting me, and does that mean I'm crazy, or is it just something that I have to learn to live with? I like how they did that, and I know it was like 60s and whatever, but like I said, I feel like movies and TV, unfortunately, even like nowadays, which sucks, because like we know so much more, people, like do better. I just feel like mental health gets very much exploited. I like the realistic piece of someone being like, I just got a diagnosis. I have never had this before, and now I'm kind of revisiting how I see myself.
Oh, I like the way you're putting all this.
And listen, of course, like 60s, like you said. So in the 60s, the norm was if there was anything mental health related, you go into an institution, you're going to hang out with Whoopi, and she's going to be your best friend and watch you shave your legs. So that's cool.
But the thing that made this movie a little bit more like exciting is you didn't get the perspective of just like the institution and the individual. You also got the perspective, which is why I love Lisa's character, of them trying to figure out each other. Like, ooh, what's wrong with you? And why do you got chicken under your bed, Brittany? And like, you know, why do you need laxatives? And like, why don't you eat? Why do you like Wizard of Oz? Like, they were also then, like, there was a societal element of like them trying to like figure each other out, and then they went to hunt to get their medical records, and I thought that was also really interesting, the women trying to like figure each other out and like also be like kind of mean about it, which was very, I wrote at one point like, Lisa is the Regina George of mental institutions.
So true. That's so
ouch. True. Yeah, so
Susanna, stop trying to make journal writing happen. It's not going to happen. Yeah, that was definitely Lisa. She was a bully. But then she also like knew that she had control over people. So then like some of the women like really liked her. I didn't know all the characters, but there was like one lady who
she had the shorter hair. She was a little bit bigger. She had the shorter hair, and she giggled.
Yes.
Who's the Sister Act character that was also in Hocus Pocus?
Kathy to Jamie.
She was the Kathy to Jamie of mental institutions.
Yes.
You were like, she loved Lisa. Anything Lisa did, she was just like...
She was just giggling. It was great. And she was the one who, when they were at the ice cream parlor, somebody was like, oh, I want peppermint stick ice cream. And then she goes, peppermint. And then everyone laughs. And then she goes, peppermint. And Whoopi's just like, It's like, I wrote LMAO, love that girl.
But we don't know anything about her, right? Like,
no, we don't know nothing. Don't even know her name. But she was great. She was great.
So, but I think the climax of this movie is when they run away and they go to visit Brittany Murphy, and then, like, it gets real.
Yo, and then Lisa calls her Jamie. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate that. I was like, that should have been your first clue, Susanna. That, like, abort.
Well, she did. She did have that moment where she was like, I'm not Jamie, I'm Susanna. But if you go back and listen to the music, it's that ting again. It's like,
tones.
Yeah, it's freaky. And then they're just hitchhiking and they get to a party and then she just starts, Lisa, robs a guy, and then they end up at Daisy's house, and then it just gets... Here's the thing about Lisa that was so mesmerizing is, you were right, she was really mean, and then she was, like, really supportive, like, where she would, like, hook her friends up. And with Daisy, because Daisy was, like, it was almost as if anybody that pretended to be sane when they weren't, like, triggered Lisa, and then she took that as an attack, and then just, like a tidal wave ripped her to shreds, which, with Winona Ryder's character, like, that's where she talked about how she didn't do anything. Like, she just let her rip her to shreds. And so I think that was, like, her cross to bear of, like, I indulged my flaws so much that I just ignored what was happening. And then as a result, which you can't say that it was her fault.
No, I don't
at
think
all.
So. That's the thing. It's like, you don't know, like, it could have still ended up happening, even if she responded differently, unfortunately. Yeah. And all I'm going to say is thank God that Daisy had a cat, because if we did not have this cat, I don't know. Who knows? We would have maybe never known what happened to Daisy. But this cat, this is the perfect reason why everyone should own a pet. I don't care what kind of pet you own, but it better be a pet that likes you. Because if you are, in the bathroom and need help, you need a pet.
You need a pet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, very sad. And, Susanna, this is another good scene. Not good. It's very sad, but, like, it's good depiction of how Susanna and Lisa are different. And I think that's almost why this scene was in here. I don't think it's the main reason, but I think it was part of the reason, because you see Susanna being, like, so upset and shocked, and then Lisa comes in and Lisa calls her, like, an idiot or something rude. And then she mugs her. She mugs a corpse.
This was when I could believe the sociopath element, because, like, wasn't even freaked out by a dead body. Just, like, went in there and, like, literally pulled out her wallet and was like, well, and then looked at Susanna and was like, we need money. I don't understand. Why do you think this is, like, weird?
She's like, we gotta go. And Susanna's like, no. And then we get a cat. So, silver lining?
Yeah, but after this scene, Susanna then gets that kick in the peppermint that Whoopi tried to do.
Yes.
But it wasn't, like, heavy enough.
Yeah. And when she comes back, she, like, is very depressed and she's sleeping a lot. And again, Whoopi's like, I'm about to come kick you in the butt. Here comes Whoopi. And that's where she's like, you gotta get up. And she's like, I just want to sleep. She's like, no, you gotta get up. Like, I think you need to get up and, like, you need to do something because, like, you can't just lay here all the time. That's not good for you. And then that's when they kind of talk and Susanna says, like, she, wishes she did something different, whatever. And then Whoopi is like, you're not crazy. You just need to, like, learn how to handle yourself a little differently. And she's like, you like writing? Why don't you just, like, journal? And I was like, yeah, Whoopi, thank you. That's a great coping skill. Do some journaling. Absolutely. And then she says a good line. She says, do not drop anchor here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. And then Susanna cries and apologizes, and I really like that.
I was really happy she apologized because
I know
it was getting hard to like Susanna. It was getting hard. I was like, I really didn't like her after a while, and, like, you just didn't want to see her get better.
Yeah, and then right after that, it's like that whole montage of, like, okay, now she's actually, like, doing therapy as its intent. She's actually, like, participating in therapy. therapy and, hey, it works. What do you know? It's weird. It's almost like science. And like, you know, it's so crazy. And then Lisa comes back.
Yeah.
Lisa's scary.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah. And Susanna's like, I'm ready to leave. Please don't
Yeah.
derail me, you know, like whatever. And then that's when there's that whole thing where it's literally the last night, of course, so dramatic, where she's like, my cat's missing and all the girls are like somewhere. And like, I'm worried that I felt like she was worried that Lisa was like trying to kill the cat because she seems scared.
Well, and it was first the woman was like, take these pills to go to sleep. And she was like, no, it's my last night. I don't need them. And she was like sleeping in her bed and people were like making noise. And so she took the pills too to go to sleep. And so I feel like it was like all these, like she was like, oh my God, these pills are hitting me and I gotta go to sleep. And Lisa's being Lisa and I don't know what's happening. But I'm telling you, the cringy music again. Ding, 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 ding. But what if someone read your diary out loud to everybody?
They'd be like, wow, this kid's really emo.
Okay, but I'm going to ask you this because I'm curious.
I never had a diary, if that's your question.
But you've never journaled? I like to journal. No?
No.
Just, who cares?
I think I just do a lot of thinking and then it just stays in my brain and doesn't go anywhere.
Nice.
But you had to have one last scene, climax, where it's like, oh snap, she's getting out and now everybody's gonna hate her because they all hate everyone who gets out and she's gonna lose all her friends and blah, blah, blah. And Lisa's scary and where the heck is a cat? And blah, blah.
You're like, where's the cat?
I was really worried about the cat. I'm like, I don't remember what happens to the cat. I'm really nervous with the cat. And then the cat was cool. So thank God. But yeah, and then they have their big blowout where she says Lisa is dead inside, and it's again very dramatic. My God. Lisa also had like a syringe. What was the plan?
I think she was trying to kill herself.
Kill herself or kill Susanna?
Well,
because she was chasing Susanna and she had a syringe, and I was like, I don't know.
First, I thought she was going to harm Susanna. Okay. Then I think when they started like getting back at each other, then she was going to like harm herself.
Okay.
And then that's when Georgina was like, please don't.
She's like, don't. And then Lisa was crying and sad. But then there was also in the beginning of the movie a scene where like everyone's snuggling. So I don't know.
Well, okay, so there's some good lines from it. Lisa starts screaming, I'm playing a villain just like you wanted. I'm consistent. I told you to your face. I keep playing the villain because it makes you the good guy. And then you think you're free. I'm free. That's what it was. Everybody has these buttons. They're begging to be pressed. Why doesn't anyone press my buttons? And then she screams like, 'cause you're dead inside. Right. Which reading these without the acting seems very dramatic. Like, you know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it does. And then, you know, the next day, Susanna paints her nails as she's strapped up again. Who strapped her back up? I don't know. Someone did. Ugh. And that's nice. And then Lisa cries and they have a good talk. And they're like, and again, Lisa is like a person. And she's like, I'm not like really dead. And Susanna's like, I know. I'm like, okay, so, okay. Ugh. And then she just says bye to everyone, and everyone's like, we love you again. Because she apologized really quickly. And then Whoopi's like, I'm proud of you. Remember me when you shave your leg. And yeah. And then there's more like dramatic poetry reading at the end, which I could do without personally.
Well, she did say, I leave recovered, borderline. I was like, okay. And then somehow the same freaking taxi guy picks her up a year later.
Magic. What's going on? Are you the only man in this town? I don't understand. The only cab here? What's going on?
But my notes just like die off because then there's like nothing else. I think to me, the thing that makes this movie really interesting is the interaction with all the women at the hospital and how they like play off each other in the day to day. The rest of it is like a lot. Like what's sending her in, having her leave, the boyfriend on the outside. I'm all just like, I'm like into the inner world. Yeah. Because it's just like interesting and different and like stuff you don't really see. And I don't know. The rest of it's all just like, meh.
So yeah, it's a good movie.
I loved it. I could just talk about this for days. So, assumption is there are no quotes from you about anything because, like, please. And also, poor Emily is trying to not have her own Lisa moment with her car.
Yeah.
But I'm intrigued for what is next because I did have some fun watching this movie. Boop, 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 boop.
Beep, boop, bop, beep. Okay, so I want to go in a totally different direction.
Whoop.
We're going to take a break from some fan picks just to kind of shake things up a teensy bit. But I would actually like to go back to the 80s, I should say, because we were in the 80s with Can't Buy Me Love. But this is a different genre. We kind of... I don't think we've done this genre in a while, and I miss it, and I know you love it, and I love it, and we love it. It's collective. So this is a adventure family comedy.
Ooh!
From the 80s. And our family specifically, I feel like we have a very funny story relating to this movie that I can't even give you hints about because you're going to know immediately what it is.
I know what it is.
I'm going to give you a hint that's related to you and I. Maybe 2 years ago, around Christmas, you and I went to Atlantic City, one of Katie's favorite places, and one of the slot machines we played was related to this movie, and we got to take a picture, which was with the movie. So we are going to watch the 1985 classic movie, The Goonies. Do you remember that?
Oh my god, I thought you were going Indiana Jones because of Indy Woods.
Oh.
Which is a family inside joke. But, oh, The Goonies is awesome!
So the family inside joke is the one, I don't remember when this was, but it was a very historic event in our family. We were playing family charades with our mom's side of the family. We were at Aunt Chris and Uncle Dave's house with all our cousin aunts and uncles, and we're playing charades, and our cousin Ryan got the truffle shuffle, and he had to reenact, or no, he got the Goonies, I think, and instead of like trying to describe the name of the movie, he just continued to do the truffle shuffle in front of us, and no one knew what was happening, and people don't forget, so, yep.
Oh, and we know that he doesn't listen to this because we sent him the podcast and his state doesn't show up
we
as
still
watched.
Have no Connecticut listeners, so come on, people. Actually, we do have Connecticut listeners, but not that part of Connecticut.
This is a great pick, and I think I actually watched this more recent. And
wow.
From what I remember briefly, there's some pretty freaking funny stuff in this that you like see people as little babies. And
oh, I know, little Sean Austin. My God, he's his little baby face.
And he talks so weird. He's like, "Come on, guys, let's go. Here's my uplifting story."
Oh my God,
Goonies never die. You're like, oh my God, can we help with this?
Yeah, it's so good. I'm excited. It's a very good movie.
That's a great pick.
It's a classic for a reason, so. Bridge.
Yes.
I just gotta say, if you were, having a tough time and you signed yourself into a psychiatric facility and Whoopi was the nurse there, I would hold up a towel as you shaved your legs.
I thought you were going to say I would just go get Whoopi's autograph.
No.
Well, Kate, if you happen to need a ride to your psychiatric facility, I would call you an Uber Black instead of the taxi man.
Well, thank you. And let's hope I don't get the same Uber Black on the way out. Goodness.
And I would also order you a peppermint stick, peppermint. I
want to incorporate that into my real life vocabulary because it's so funny. Oh, I love it. And listeners, if you also like that flavor of ice cream, You should write us a review. We love reviews. We love written reviews. You can pull a Susanna and write all about us. We won't get offended in the basement.
But like write it in like really annoying, dramatic poem speak, and then at the end talk about Whoopi. Continue.
Yeah, I might not read it if you do that. I'll just look at the stars and move on. But, you know, you do whatever your little heart desires. You can review us on Apple Podcasts. There are some other podcasting websites where you can leave a review. Feel free to do so. We always appreciate that. And you can also check us out on our website, sisterswhoseenit.com. If you would like to be like Emily, you can request a movie. You can go on our website, scroll down on the front page. There is a form you can fill out. You can write what movie you would like us to do. And then also you can email us at sisterswhoseenit@gmail.com. And hey, you know what? If you like what we're doing here and you love what you hear, you can help support us. We have a new option. Bridget set this up, everyone. Golf claps for Bridget. We do have a Ko-Fi, which means you can electronically, symbolically buy us coffee, but really it's just a donation, which we do appreciate. There are links to that on our website. You can link to that on our Instagram. It's all over, everyone. So if you like us, that's another way to show your support, and we really appreciate that. And we'll shout you out if you do so. So, you know, that's cool. Your name is on the airwaves forever.
The airwaves.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all of those things, do those. Or else, I'll call Lisa on you. You don't want that, do you?
Ting, ting, ting,
ting, ting, ting.
No, you don't want her near you. That's for sure.
No. All right, listeners. Well, we'll see y'all next week.
See you next week.
For
Goonies! And my shirt's up and my bellies are out. Okay, Kate, I love you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye. I love you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks for tuning in to Sisters Who've Seen It. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at sisterswhoseenit.com, where you can email us, request movies to be reviewed, and keep up to date with all things sisters. Also, make sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. See you next week.